What's up, everybody, and welcome. My name is Tex with Vaping Gamers, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Do me a favor first before we get started. Make sure you guys throw a like and a follow on the channel. I would appreciate that very, very, very much. If you're new around here, I am a variety streamer. I happen to be streaming over on Twitch right now, but one of the games that I've been playing and really getting into, of course, is Marvel's Avengers. I get asked constantly, what do the characters do? What are they kind of like? What is the playstyle kind of like? And so that's what we're going to kind of dive into today. We're going to take a look at Black Widow, Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, Kamala Khan, and so forth. And we're just going to basically get an overview of kind of their fighting style, their character, and kind of what they do. And later on, you know, we'll get into some build videos and tips and tricks and stuff that I found to make the game super enjoyable. So without any further ado, let's get to it. Alrighty, so the first character we're going to be checking out tonight is Black Widow. Now, I love Black Widow. She is my main. I absolutely love what she does. She's got some amazing abilities like light attacks, where she basically just kind of beats him with her sticks. You also have her heavy attacks, which basically does a lot of damage and also can inflict the shock damage. You also have your ranged attack. So she can either be up close and personal, or she can be far away with stuff like full auto shot, bullet storm, which is more like, you know, you pull the trigger or what have you, and high caliber shot, where you kind of aim down sights and hold down to do massive amounts of damage. And then you also have her Widow's Line ability, which really is incredible to kind of knock enemies off their feet and to kind of give you a moment to breathe. And what really makes Black Widow kind of my favorite to play is she's very nimble and she gets out of tight jams pretty easily. There's not too many classes that I can say that kind of do that, though depending upon your gameplay style, of course, anybody like Captain or, you know, Hulk, or even like Thor, for example, they do a tremendous amount of DPS and damage as well. She, in my opinion, is more of kind of like a status kind of type of, you know, debuff kind of class, though I have seen some crazy builds with her that do a ton of damage. So if you plan it right, if you do it right, you really can make a great build with her to do a ton of damage. And she has a great amount of survivability with, you know, getting heroic orbs and all these other kind of things that kind of help to get your special moves faster. Like you notice down in the lower right hand corner, you see those little red circles. Those are your heroic moves. And every single person in the Avengers universe does actually have them. Each one does something different. With her, as you can see, you know, she kind of goes invisible and she just tears up the battlefield. I absolutely love using her, and she's my absolute favorite.
Stay sharp.
We also have Captain America. He's got various types of attack, like his light attack, which is basically his knuckles. You have his shield smash. You have his ranged attack, which basically throws his shield at enemies, which is pretty dope, especially as you get it leveled. You also have his intrinsic ability, which is basically he blocks attacks and also can basically repel projectiles. And so with Captain, for me, he kind of feels more like he's like the team captain, so to speak, you know, pardon the pun. But he basically does different moves to buff the team, to basically really kind of help to control basically the battlefield when you're fighting the different robots and different aim forces, who is basically the villain of the game. But his fighting style is really good. I mean, the sound that you get from his shield as it makes contact with the enemies is really nice. It's satisfying. It feels freaking great. And especially as you get him built up, his ranged attack with his shield is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, as you can tell with my Captain, of course, he's a little underleveled because I haven't showed him, you know, as much love as I should, so shame on me. But I find that as I play him and I use him, I actually am enjoying him a lot more. And now we're on to Hulk, Mr. Bruce Banner himself, the ever-lovable green giant. And with him, he is kind of like a crowd control. So you had stuff like combat, which is you basically beat him with your fists, which is called his light attack. Then you also have, you know, various different methods in terms of, you know, throwing, you know, rocks and debris basically at the enemies. You have his heavy attack, which it kind of picks up the ground and kind of chucks it at them. He's got a smash power attack, which kind of beats the ground down and creates a bunch of AoE damage. You also have his grab attacks, where he grabs the enemies and he basically slams them around like little rag dolls, which is fantastic. I love that move. And so for him, you know, he's very versatile in terms of his particular build. You also have Rage as well, which allows him to do extra damage and also helps to heal him as he's kind of fighting through mobs and enemies to control the battlefield. And so basically with Hulk, the way that I see him playing out in terms as a character, he really is kind of like a tank. But don't let that fool you. You can build him to where, you know, he's applying debuffs on the enemy and giving himself a defensive buff, and he's basically taunting enemies, and he's basically forcing them to basically challenge him and take him on, and he can just wipe the floor with them. And now we're on to Iron Man, Tony Stark, of course. If you don't know who he is, shame on you. But he's got a lot of amazing abilities too as well. Melee being his main one, repulsors, lasers, and rockets kind of a secondary. But also he has some other special abilities as well in his specialty tree that really make him unique to the battlefield. He's got a support heroic ability, which kind of creates a shield and can buff your teammates and they give them overcharge and such, so they do more damage. You also have his Assault Heroic ability, which is kind of like, you know, the laser beam out of his chest, which is a lot of fun to use. You also have a Hulkbuster, which kind of turns him into this gigantic robot that just basically decimates everything on the field. I mean, what can you say about Iron Man? Everybody's wanted to play as Iron Man at one time or another, right? I mean, you read the comics, and getting to play him in the game feels so good. His flying can be a little tricky to get used to, but once you do, his combat feels very natural. You can change up your secondary from, you know, melee and punching to using your lasers or your repulsor beam, or his missiles as well, which, you know, he can do a ton of damage. And so I found myself really liking him once I get used to his play style. You know, blocking and parrying and stuff is very vital with him for survivability, especially in some of the more harder stuff in the game towards the end. Now we come to Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, who is basically the main person and character of the story for the most part as you go through the story. But she is really unique in her particular fighting style and playability. She's a polymorph, so she can basically stretch herself all over the place with like her light attack with her hands and fists. You also have her heavy attack, which does extra damage and kind of throws guys around. You also have her ranged attack, which is her throwing her fist and kind of punching people and things across the map. And also her intrinsic ability, which is polymorph, is what they call it. So you can basically dodge your enemy's attacks. Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, is kind of the glue that holds the team together, or actually that brings back the Avengers together. In her particular fighting style, she kind of stretches all over the place, and she can hit enemies from afar, she can get them up close. She can do a really good job, though, at kind of knocking around the enemy and kind of knocking them off balance, so you know your teammates can kind of get in there and fight. She's very much a DPS build, but she also has a healing ability that is absolutely phenomenal to use when you're in a group. And so I definitely would encourage you, if you're kind of like a healing DPS build, she's definitely the one for you. All right, now we come to Thor, the God of Thunder. I really enjoyed playing him. As you can tell, you know, his attacks, of course, with the hammer. You have basic hammer attacks. You have different attacks you can do while he's up in the air. You can pound the ground. You can smash the ground with this freaking hammer. You can do... you know, lightning bolts into the ground, and he's really fun. You know, you can... I found him to be easier to get used to flying than I did with Iron Man, but that's just me. Once I really got into using Thor quite a bit before switching over to Black Widow, I kind of loved using him. I mean, his flying ability is just phenomenal, especially to get into some of those places when you're out in some of the open spots, in quotation marks. But he does a great job at you know, handling mobs, causing damage, DPS, dot damage, electrical damage, of course, because he's the God of Thunder. And overall, I just find him to be such a unique teammate that usually with my preferred companions when I go on missions, I almost always choose him when I'm playing Black Widow. Just because of the fact that he just does such a great job with his abilities, with his hammer throw, pinning guys up against the wall, and so forth. He's phenomenal, and I encourage you guys definitely check him out. There you guys go. That is it. That's kind of a very minor brief overview of Marvel's Avengers and the characters and kind of the classes and, you know, kind of the way that they play. I tried to be as balanced as possible. It's really difficult to go into a lot of the nitty-gritty and a lot of the details and specifics for each class. Because really, you know, you can check out other videos there on YouTube. I'm telling you right now, you know, to really kind of go in depth, you're looking at like 30 to 45 minute video. And so if that's the case, I'd much rather know, you know, what characters would you guys like to see? You know, what kind of tips and tricks you guys want to hear? How can I help you in the Marvels game to make it more enjoyable for you? I have been enjoying the game. I have it both for PS4 and also for PC. And I just find myself going and doing missions and grinding and trying to get loot. It's a lot like Destiny had a baby with Division, had a baby with Anthem. Though a lot of people would kind of compare the game in the state that it's in right now to Anthem, you know, needless to say, we'll visit that another time. But, you know, there's other things to explore. There's, you know, the helicarrier, there's the anthill where you can get your missions and faction vendors there. You can get different items and so forth for your characters. There's some missions that you can go and do that are almost kind of like open world, but not quite. But needless to say, it's a fun little game. I enjoy it. Hopefully you guys enjoy it too. Don't forget to come by, visit me when I'm streaming over there on Twitch at twitch.tv/vapin_gamers. I stream Thursday through Sunday right now. I'll have my schedule over there on my page, and I'll throw a link down below as well, the video. So anyway, you guys take care of yourselves and each other. Stay safe, and I will see you guys again next time. And thank you so much. Bye.